Our resource person is currently pursuing a PhD in biology at the University of San Carlos in Cebu City. Her master's degree in ecological marine management was completed at Vraie Universidad Brazil in Belgium. She is an assistant professor at Samar State University, Center for Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, Research and Development in Catbalogan City. Her research focuses on the mangrove ecosystem, marine biology, Samar coastal water, and other related fields. She has also published a number of research articles in her field of expertise. Let us welcome Assistant Professor Diana Shane Balindo.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for attending the Kaigangan webinar series. I am Diana Shane Balindo from Samar State University, also a project member of Conserve Kaigangan. Now, I am here to share to you our preliminary result on flowering and fruiting phenology of 3 species in limestone forest of Samar Island Natural Park. The world forest cover has been continuously declining over the years, and this decline in our forest cover is driven by several factors. One of that is forestry, shifting agriculture, urbanization, wildfire, and the most common in Southeast Asian nations and Latin American nations is the commodity-driven deforestation. Same situation is also observed in the Philippines. So there has been decline of forest cover over the years until in 2015 that it was observed that there had been 170,000 hectares of increase in forest cover. According to the source, this increase was due to the 5-year forest management activities of our government and other concerned agencies. Okay, so these forest management strategies, for example, the reforestation, are also, or rather involve important factors that should be considered for its success. For example, population dynamics of the different species in that particular area, which includes phenological behavior. Also, population structure and regeneration status. And regeneration status actually is affected by the quality of seeds and seedlings that is being produced and being used in these reforestation efforts. So for us to be able to have a successful forest management, one of the factors, as I have said, that should be taken into account is the phenology. So we have to understand the phenological calendar or phenological activities of species in a particular area that we wanted to manage. So phenology or phenological calendar predicts the time of events in a plant or tree development. Well, this can assist farmers in determining the optimal times to collect and plant seeds while also enabling them to understand how local plant population are impacted by changes or changing climate and weather occurrences. So these are some of the application of phenological observation or of phenological calendar. So aside from the purpose that I have made mention earlier, this can also be applied in agriculture, ecology and biodiversity, natural resource management, which we are talking about, education, gardening, human health, increasing environmental interest, tourism, recreation, and sports. So for agriculture, it provides phenological data as input for crop models and, of course, for timing of management activities. For ecology and biodiversity, of course, assessing the impact of extreme event, species interaction, migration of plants, animals to new zones, mismatch of timing, and a lot more. For natural resource management, timing of management activities, like what I have said earlier, the collection of seeds and planting, resource management under a particular climate. So in this case, Samar is under type 2 climate. Education, we can also use the phenological calendar for education, especially to involve students in scientific research and also bring people closer to nature. So gardening, especially now that there are a lot of plantitas, this calendar is very important for gardening, giving information to public on planning activities like pest control. Human health, of course, it is very important because this calendar would provide us about pollen information, especially to sensitive groups of our population. So if we know when a particular plant that causes allergy, flowers, or produce pollens, then we will be able to understand when is the right time to visit and not to visit a particular. So increasing environmental interest, informing the public on environmental issues like climate change and its effects on vegetation and animals. Also, tourism, understanding the phenological calendar of flowering trees is very important also for tourism. So we can, in other countries, for example, in Australia, during flowering of apricot and other tree species like sakura, because they also have sakura, they organize tourist tour over or along these areas where these species are abundant. So again, tourism and recreation, giving information on phenomena or events that potentially can interest people to go on places where the species is abundant. For reforestation efforts, seedling quality is very important. So that is why we need to understand when is the fruiting phenology of our target species in order for us to be able to collect a good quality seeds for seedling purposes. So if managers or farmers involved in these initiatives lack knowledge on the distribution and phenology of the species or tree species, especially forest species, then it will result to constraints in seedling production. So it's either they will have less produce seedling production, or they will produce a seedling of low quality. So in some cases, if seeds and seedlings are not available, some farmers or forest managers are used the wildlings. And using wildlings sometimes is not advisable because it will result to seedlings of low physical quality. Imagine a wildling already situated on a part of the forest, and you will uproot that just for a purpose of replanting and reforestation. It will cause a lot of stress on the wildlings. And if you transfer that again to another area for reforestation, then it would really incur a lot of stress to the seedling, which may later result to a very low survival rate and reforestation success. In our project in Conserve Kaigangan, we are concerned with increasing the number of, especially the endangered species of trees, which is found also in SINP. For example, there are a lot of indigenous species that are found in SINP, and we really want to culture those species, produce more seedlings and plant more seedlings of those species in order for them to be abundant in our area. So with that, we really need to know when is the fruiting phenology of those species, and we really need to collect good seeds in order for us to produce good seedling quality. Okay, so for this study, the objective mainly is to provide phenological data on tree species in forests over limestone of Parana side of SINP. So with that, we have to identify mother tree species, identify the fruiting and the flowering schedule or phenology of these different species, and of course create a phenological calendar. So for materials and methods, as I have said earlier, the study area is SINP, but the Barana side of SINP. So we have two tracks that we have observed. One in Barangay San Isidro and the other is Barangay Tinan. So what we did is we identify mother trees, observe phenological activities, and produce the phenology calendar. So in identifying mother trees, we consider the leaves, the trunks, the buttress, and the flowers, which we use for identification of the species. And also, as I have said, we consider the mother trees, the good mother trees, which is one of the consideration taken into account is the DBH. So the DBH must least 30 centimeters. And also we consider also the trunk, if it's straight or not. So we only chose the good, how do you call this? The mother trees with good physical attributes. So for phenological observation, phenological data were collected through the months of 2019 to 2020. Although our study was highly affected by travel restriction during the pandemic, at least we were able to have observation, and there were times that we were not able to go to the area. So we also conducted a focus group discussion of locals in Barangay San Isidro and Barangay Tinani to really understand and validate our observation. So the flowering and fruiting periods of the trees were also observed and documented. The visible crown was examined using binoculars, and the ground beneath was inspected for fallen buds, spent corollas, and of course fruits. As I have said earlier, an additional information was acquired using focus group discussion with the locals in order for us to validate what we have observed, and also to took data of the weeks that we were not able to go to the site because of travel restrictions. So we also collected meteorological data, particularly rainfall and temperature, because this is one driver of phenological activity of different species of plants. So data analysis, methodology mainly relies on the assessment of us, the observers, and tabulated compared to those previous investigation, and also to the findings of locals, including responses of locals were collated into phenological calendar. Okay, so based on the observations, so as I have said earlier, we have observed two tracks, one in San Isidro and the other one in Barangay Tinani. So in this study, we have observed 105 trees, both on track 1 and track 2. So 105 trees comprised of 33 species. So in track 1 in Barangay San Isidro, there were 79 trees observed, and in track 2 in Tinani, there were 26 mother trees observed. So these 26 mother trees were from 14 species and 10 families. So this shows the list of species and number of trees that were observed in track 1 and in track 2 for this particular time of from 2019 to 2020. So among the species observed belong to family Ananaceae and Combretaceae, and among this we have a lot from Dipterocarpaceae. So we have at least a handful of Dipterocarpaceae species. Okay, so as I have said, we have observed 105 mother trees from 33 species. But unfortunately, for a span of 1 year, we have only observed 15 species to either flower or fruit. So among the 15 are this one. So we have the Moon. So Moon grandifolium was observed to fruit but we were not able to observe this species flowering. Terminalia macrantha, we observed this to flower during the months of February to April and fruit during the months of June to August. Vatica mangya chapoy is observed to fruit but not to flower. So actually there are several species that were observed to bear fruits, but we were not able to observe to flowers. One of the factor that might cause this one is that sometimes the flowering is very short. Flowering period is very short compared to that of the fruiting period. So fruiting, according to the literatures, is quite longer compared to flowering. So among observed species are Hopea samarensis, which is indigenous species. So it is observed to flower in the months of May to June and fruit on the months of October to November. So same also with Hopea philippinensis, another indigenous species, which is also observed to flower during the months of May to June and fruit on October, November. So as you can see, there is a big difference between the months that they flower and they fruit. So usually supposed to be, it should be a continuous, but in here we were not able to observe the continuity, and this could be because of there are instances that we were not able to go to the area for observation due to travel restriction, and sometimes also since we observe mother trees that are about 10 to 20 meters high, that is why we were not be able to really inspect the entire foliage if there are a lot of flowers during the months of July to September. Okay, so another species observed is Shorea negrosinensis, another endemic to Philippines, which is observed to flower during the months of April to May and to fruit during the months of June up to August. Jospirus discolor is observed to flower on January and observed to fruit on the months of March up to May. Also, another set of species, we have Lithocarpus, we have Tristaniopsis, and also one of the most important species commercially is Aquilaria. So we have observed Aquilaria to flower on the months of April to May and to fruit from from June to August. So Aquilaria is really known. The fruiting and the flowering phenology of Aquilaria in that area is known, not only observed but is also known by farmers, because farmers in Barangay San Isidro and Barangay Tinani usually collects Aquilaria fruits and they use it in silviculture to produce seedlings which they actually sell to big farmers, because in Samar there are already farmers that grow Aquilaria for, of course, commercial purposes. So that is why Aquilaria fruiting and flowering phenology is known because of its commercial importance. Okay, so those are the 15 species that were observed throughout the 12-month observation in the two barangays of Paranas, an area of SINP. Based on our observation, this majority of the species flowers on the months of April to May until June in some species, and it fruits after the flowering, usually June up to August, and some continues up to October to November. So these are the times, or these are the period that also is abundant with precipitation and also with minimal or rather minimal change of temperature, and that is based on the meteorological data we collected from DOST Pag-asa. So for conclusion, the months of June to November were chosen as the best time to collect seeds from native trees in the area of Paranas. The information gathered can be useful in silvicultural reports, seed and seedling collection, and production planning for a plant nursery, which could be considered important undertaking of conservation. It is also recommended to conduct observation longer than 1 year. So what we did is only 1 year because of the time constraints in our study, but we highly recommend to conduct a study more than 1 year. Actually, that the minimum is supposed to be 2 years, but it is better to conduct more in order for us also to observe other species flower and fruits, because there are species that do not flower and fruit every year. And I think that is one of the reasons why out of 33 species, we have only observed 15. Okay, also it is recommended to include detailed observation on the development stages of flowering and fruiting, which our group was not able to conduct. So it is better to observe from budding to the opening of the flower until it rather will develop into fruits. So I hope you have somehow get some new ideas about the different species in SINP in Samar, and also its fruiting and its flowering schedule. So if you want to come here and visit SINP and want to somehow collect seeds for research or flower for research, that is the best time for you to come over and conduct your study. Okay, so understanding phenological calendar of indigenous, locally, and commercially, economically important species is helpful for the precision production, planning for nursery, and conservation efforts. So with that, I would like to say thank you for listening and sharing your time with us today.